Animals often avoid contact with police enforcement, but people are ready to call for assistance. A police officer was pleasantly surprised by what transpired when he called for backup after this distraught mother goose pleaded for assistance. Sergeant James Gibbons was sitting in his cruiser, enjoying a hot cup of coffee and a bagel in his hands, when a colleague stepped in to save them on a lovely morning in 2016. In one of his favorite locations, a parking lot by a park in Connecticut, he was taking a well-earned rest when he noticed an odd pounding at the side of the car. There was a tapping sound, followed by a brief period of silence. Just as Sergeant James was going to disregard it, the tapping resumed, a bit more urgently this time. Setting down his drink, he got out of the car to look around. The cop had to wipe his eyes to make sure he wasn't dreaming, since what he witnessed that morning was so unusual. There was a goose at the side of his car, pecking at the paint with such ferocity that it was clearly frantic. The pecking ceased as soon as the goose was certain that it had caught the officer's attention. Afraid and perplexed by this sudden meeting, the officer remained still. He glanced at the goose and saw that it was a female specimen, that she was somewhat anxious, and that she was not visibly injured. He couldn't think of any other explanation for her strange conduct, but she didn't appear to be famished. Although Sergeant James disliked sharing his bagels, he made an exception for her since he didn't want the goose to go hungry. It's likely that the goose had some young to feed. It was also clear that she must have been in dire need of food because she had come close to his car. Despite his little knowledge of animal behavior, the officer was aware that geese were unlikely to approach people. Geese and men do not necessarily have an antagonistic relationship, but both are aware of the need to maintain a safe distance. Sergeant James was well aware that geese can become quite hostile when they feel threatened by human presence. He could still clearly recall a childhood memory. On his way home from school, he had passed a little plot of land where the owner kept several geese as guardians. The gate had been left open somehow. James had noticed a geese looking at him as he passed. As if to hype itself up, the bird had begun to pump its head up and down and hoot before racing in the direction of the terrified youngster. Throwing down his rucksack, James ran across the street while screaming as loudly as he could. He was not looking forward to another near call after barely avoiding a bird assault that day. In the hopes that she would leave him alone and unharmed, he would offer this bird everything she desired. But Sergeant James was perplexed when the goose did not devour the offered bagel. She began to leave while he was still attempting to comprehend her actions. She seemed to be requesting that the policeman follow her. He cautiously followed the goose across the verdant grass to a location close to the water's edge. Sergeant James was still a bit wary, but it was obvious that this goose needed assistance and that she had decided to put her confidence in him. Had she recognized his automobile as something that frequently stood on that particular area in the parking lot close to the park? Or would she have approached anyone in a car? Whatever the response, he was aware that he needed some support to handle the problem, even if he still wanted to assist this goose. Someone from Animal Rescue Services would have been the most qualified candidate for this position, since they would have had the necessary skills and experience to handle such a unique circumstance. Nevertheless, no employee was on hand to offer prompt support. The police officers would be responsible for handling the incident. Thankfully, one of his coworkers was close by and answered his radio call right away. Cecilia Sharon, a fellow officer, arrived to help within a few minutes. Sergeant James gave his colleague command of the operation, with the understanding that he would be responsible for filming the action. The police officers finally realized why the goose had behaved so irrationally when they had the opportunity to take a closer look at the little brook they had been guided to. There was a little baby goose in danger. Her impulse to defend her infant outweighed her dread of people since she was a mother. She had been correct to put her confidence in those cops since they were so devastated by the condition of the little gosling that they felt compelled to assist straight away. After spending a day at the park, the majority of people are careful to leave no trash behind, but others are not. Plastic is frequently present in areas where humans and wild animals congregate, which can be quite harmful. An animal might die from something as seemingly harmless as a balloon. Every year, a large number of turtles and birds perish as a result of a body part becoming twisted in gutter thread. This infant had experienced just this. Ironically, the gosling's foot had been entangled in the thread of a Mother's Day balloon. The poor animal must have struggled in a panic, and the intestines must have wrapped around its entire body. The thread drew tighter as it grew somewhat panicked. Ultimately, this infant gosling was hardly able to move, but suddenly there was assistance. Never did the mother goose stand further than a few feet away. In addition to wanting to assist, Officer Cecilia was a little worried that she may be attacked at the park that morning. Nevertheless, she began to work on the cables after picking up the twisted, tiny gosling. One eye was focused on her task, and the other eye closely monitored the nervous mother. Both cops were astounded by what transpired next. Surprisingly, the mother goose never shown any aggressive behavior. Despite being under her cautious eye, Officer Cecilia at last relaxed and skillfully untangled the little gosling. She and James were both taken aback by the goose's actions. Such constraint was quite exceptional for any animal, and particularly for a mother who was terribly concerned about her child. Perhaps she completely expected this law enforcement official to rescue her kid from the thread, since she knew that police officers were good people. As Sergeant James recorded the exchange from a safe distance, she did just that. The infant would not have survived if the mother goose had not dared to ask for assistance. Cecilia let go of the gosling from the thread and sighed with relief. The infant ran to her mother's side right instantly, who was still standing a few feet away. Clearly relieved, the mother goose let out a series of joyful, loud honks. She made what appeared to be a thank you gesture with her wings, flapping them around Officer Cecilia before concentrating entirely on the infant. It seems likely that they were en route to rejoin their siblings when they both threw themselves into the river. This video received over 3 million views in a matter of hours after it was posted on social media. The mother goose's actions, which included asking a police officer for assistance without assaulting at all and displaying obvious gratitude for saving her baby, shocked people. Connecticut residents were also comforted by the fact that their community had some decent police officers. Officer Cecilia Sharon and Sergeant James Gibbons were among those who made them feel safer because they were trustworthy. The only thing that people ever want from law enforcement is that. What a wonderful conclusion. Has a goose ever assaulted or pursued you? Do you think you could ever trust one? Do you also make sure to clean up all of your rubbish when having a picnic in a park or other public place? Tell us by leaving a comment below. I appreciate your time and we'll see you in the future video.